Hello, everyone. Welcome to our video series on bringing formative assessment to life in Edmonton Catholic Schools. As you've seen in previous videos of the series, formative assessment is a cycle in which teaching is responsive and learning is informed, thereby improving the learning of our current students. Formative assessment has two components: assessment for learning, in which teachers use student learning information to guide their instruction and provide feedback to students for the purpose of improving their learning, and assessment as learning, in which students reflect on their learning, monitor their own progress, and implement the feedback they receive from each other and from their teachers to move their learning forward. The Learning Goals Timeline Routine focuses mainly on two of Dylan Wiliam's 5 key strategies for the formative assessment process. First, clarifying, sharing, and understanding the learning intentions is a major component of teacher clarity and also assessment for and as learning. And second, activating students as owners of their own learning, which addresses assessment as learning. As you watch this video, consider in what ways are these two strategies met by the use of this routine. You may also want to consider how might you already use a variation of this tool in your classroom? What features of the learning environment and classroom culture do you think contribute to the success of this routine? In what ways does the routine nature of using this tool by the teacher and students provide a scaffold for students to own their learning? And what opportunities do you see for your own practice? Join us as we learn about how a small shift in long-term planning and transparency with students improves learning. Let's listen to how we can make use of a learning goals timeline routine a part of our instruction.
So my name is John Shields. I teach senior high math. I'm brand new to Louis Saint Laurent, brand new to the culture of the school and the inner workings. And one thing that I needed to adjust to was the students' use of long-term time. There would always be a class here and there, or sometimes even weeks or a single week that might be actually upsetting the regular class timetable, such as a volleyball tournament or whatnot. I needed to do my long range planning in a much different way that actually activated students instead of just for my own planning. So now what I've done is included in my long range planning the students, number one, and two, they're aware of deadlines and learning goals. These students right now are completely aware of where we're supposed to be at, and a lot of them I'm finding are actually managing their time around that. So if they actually see that there's a major event coming, they work ahead as opposed to making up that work after the event has happened. So at the beginning of the semester, I've created this calendar. So it's not just a calendar, but at the bottom of the calendar of each month, there's actually a set of learning goals that actually have to happen over the course of a week. So now that the students have that sort of idea in their head, instead of seeing it as a series of classes, they actually see it as a series of weeks. So they actually understand now that there are exactly 16 weeks of learning that we can use. And whether it's a week where it includes teachers' convention or it includes a long weekend, it is a week. And that is communicated through the Google Classroom. There's a single document that the students can refer to. And it is a work in progress. I've already had to make adjustments since the beginning of the semester. But hopefully it can actually be a framework that I can use in the future. The difference between this semester and last semester is actually astounding. I've got a group of grade 12 students right now doing Math 30-1 who are completely aware of where we're supposed to be at in the semester to avoid rushing in June. And that's been actually our motto, is no rushing in June. The first semester, as a case in point, my Math 30-1 group, we did not write our first exam until mid-October, okay? And they did fine. This is a group that did fine. This group this semester did that exam in half the time and 72% of the students who wrote that exam got standard of excellence, which I actually use as the benchmark for the rest of the year. Typically, that Unit 1 exam, based on my experience of teaching Math 30-1 for the past, I guess, 7 years, has probably the highest correlation between success in the course and success in the diploma exam. So 72% got standard of excellence compared to the first group. I think maybe only about 30% got standard of excellence. Now, I mean, obviously it's a small sample size. I mean, you're just talking about 2 classes, but in terms of just use of time, and also funny enough, because on that calendar, there's actually a series of goals that are supposed to be accomplished by a certain date. That's what I'm finding actually the students are doing right now. And when I notice that the students are straying a little bit, you know, you get fatigue in April, we can go back to the calendar. Okay, we're losing focus. We can come back now to the calendar and look at what those goals are every week. I am finding just not just in terms of time management, but yeah, they're doing better in the math. It isn't just a calendar, it's a set of learning goals that increases metacognition. It's the first time I've honestly seen a long-term plan also act as an assessment as learning tool for the students. They know where they're at as a function of time. And that is actually improving metacognition. They know what they don't know. They know what they know. I've actually actively planned, instead of actively planning for my instruction and how that's going to happen, I've actually planned for the students' learning. And that's actually led to higher levels of metacognition among the students. I'm also actually a drama teacher, and so I've directed actually a lot of theater productions, not just in school, but also outside of school and in the theater community. And that sort of planning when I'm directing a production has actually influenced this planning here. I always start at the first performance, the premiere of the show, and work backwards: dress rehearsal, tech dress, run-throughs, all the way to the very first time that I actually meet with the cast. And I find that sort of backwards planning helps not just with students, it helps with professional actors. Many years ago, I actually started transferring that sort of planning to how I plan a math class, where I work backwards. This is the first time where I've actually gone deeper in terms of intermediate goals that helps students get from point A to point B. What I've also been finding as well is that the students have now become a lot more responsible for the outcomes that they have to learn. Sharing this calendar and going much more in depth has clarified learning goals for the students within the constraints of a deadline. That's probably been the most meaningful difference thus far.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Leibeg. I am in the 11th grade and I go to Louis St. Laurent. When I grow up, I hope to be a nurse,
Okay.
RN, or maybe even into radiology. I hope to try and help people through my abilities, because I've been inspired through like the history of my family. Like the medical force has always been there to help people generations back. I just want to contribute to that.
And how do you think you being able to monitor your learning, take control of your own learning, and being able to have that kind of flexibility and that self-drive, how do you think that's going to help you achieve that goal of working somewhere in the medical field?
I think by allowing to build my own goals and establishing my own understanding, I can further build my work ethic and my work drive. And being able to do these kinds of things help me focus, and by being able to focus, I can do better. So the calendar he has in place so that he's very adamant about not rushing in June during final season. In terms of utilizing it in class, he actively reminds us like, oh, this test is coming here, we have formatives on this day, or we have a pre-exam that day. And by doing that, it allows me to how do I word this, plan ahead, but like further ahead, because I have a set day. Like despite the calendar's ability to be flexible and it can be altered at any time, I can say if this test is that day, I should try to be ready given 3 or 4 days before. Sometimes I even plan a week before, just to make sure I'm fully prepared to be ready at any moment. Through the unity of the calendar, the learning goals, and the referring back to of those things by Mr. Shields, it takes the idea of a normal calendar and elevates it to a more beneficial tool for my own personal learning. The other calendars that I've gotten weren't really not as helpful, so to speak, in terms of being utilized in class, because teachers obviously like, oh, here's the calendar, look at it whenever you want. My teachers never really reminded me before about when things would happen, but having the calendar like this, where things are always scheduled, getting constantly reminded allowed me to, again, further plan ahead. Because of Mr. Shields' almost flexibility in his teaching and the calendar's ability to allow me to set goals and his reminders, it provides like a baseline of where I should be, or almost like a minimum bar or a point that I should be at this point in time. And by having that, it gives me the opportunity and the environment to try and push it a bit so that I can further advance in whatever it is he's trying to teach, so I can develop more of my own understanding. I think the most prominent example would be the second unit that I had, trigonometry. During that time, he was very suggestive of like, just get this work done at that time, take your time to understand the concepts and stuff. But for me, seeing the goals, like I think the test was, I want to say a week or two from when I was looking at the calendar, and I was how should I word this? I felt like as if I wasn't as prepared as I wanted to be at that time. So after considering, given this time, I have my resources available to me, rather than just like try and stay within like a safe space, I want to try and push it so I can, as I was saying, rather than trying to stay in like this safe space, which I know I'll do fine in, rather than just try to limit my understanding to this one space, I could try and expand upon it to further succeed in whatever else is to come. So by knowing what I'm supposed to know by this certain date, it allows me to set goals so that I'm aware of the goals that I need to reach before that date, so I can take the steps into further improving my learning.
Let's recap with some tips for success when using a learning goals timeline. First, begin with the end in mind. This means that we're using backward planning. Some people have heard the term backward design. What it really means is that we are going to first identify and understand the desired outcome for learning, then determine what evidence will tell you that the students have learned. So what will they say? What will they do? What will they create? What will they write? And then we design the instruction and the learning activities and the practice to elicit the evidence of that learning and provide feedback along the way. The second tip is to make it routine. So how do we do that? First, we share it with the students at the beginning or as soon as you've decided to use it. We're going to make its purpose clear, make sure that the students understand that we are looking at chunks of time and we need to make decisions about our work habits, etc. And we need to make sure that we're hitting these learning targets, because reality is we do have a timeline to follow. And then refer to it often and meaningfully. So it is going to be let's take a look at this. What are our learning goals right now? And constantly prompt our students until they get the idea and they're doing it on their own. And then work with students to get feedback on pacing and then adjust as necessary. I'd like to extend a special thanks to Mr. Jonathan Shields at Louis Saint Laurent High School and his student, Jeremy Lebeck. If you'd like to learn more, we invite you to visit our SharePoint site for links to these and other resources. If you have specific questions, feel free to reach out to your assessment and reporting consultant at Lumen Christi Center for Catholic Education. Thanks for watching and have a great day.